Welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 250,000 subscribers. Now's not the time to unsubscribe. It's the time to join communities like this. Subscribe and share with friends so that you get my raw and unfiltered commentary on important daily issues. And I want to start by talking about some of the cabinet picks. And we're going to concentrate right now on Pete Hegseth. And why Pete? Well, because after Matt Gaetz stepped down, because he was, look, let's be clear. He was unqualified to be the attorney general. He had other sorts of issues. Everybody now, again, is focusing on Pete Hegseth. So first, I want to show you an article. All right. The article says Trump encounters Senate GOP limits with failed Gaetz AG push. Then it goes on to say that President-elect Trump's ill-fated nomination of former Representative Matt Gaetz to run the Justice Department, it marked an early sign of his potential limits in moving his nominees and dealing with Senate Republicans, giving him less wiggle room to get his cabinet in place. Riding high off his electoral win earlier this month, Trump tapped Gaetz to become Attorney General in what emerged as a quick test for Senate Republicans, with Trump expecting them to capitulate to him as they have numerous times over the years. Now, I want to go on to show you what Leslie Marshall had to say on Fox News about Matt Gaetz's withdrawal. Play the clip.
Look, there's only one man on Fox News, and I've been here 17 years, that shushed me on national television and told me he'd tell me when he could let me finish. And that was Matt Gaetz. So to answer your question, though, Howie, it's a trifecta here. I think there was, a sit down by the guy who, nominated him, the president-elect. I think there was a phone call, because 15 minutes after that phone call from CNN, hello, second allegation. And then third, you just got to look at the numbers. You don't have the votes. It was.
Yeah. So I want you to stay to the very end on this one, because I think you're going to understand the twist that comes at the very end as it relates to Pete. But I also want you to remember that Pete Hegseth said that, for example, and this is what makes him so controversial, that women shouldn't be in combat. Play this clip.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated. We've all served with women, and they're great. It just, our institutions don't have to incentivize that in places where not traditionally, over human history, men in those positions are more capable.
Yeah. Again, probably not the way to express yourself. There are plenty of women who are incredible that I don't even know how to describe that sort of statement other than just being the anti-woke kind of guy that Pete Hegseth wants to be. And then again, that's even if you acknowledge the term woke. But I wanted to also show you, because I think she says it much better, Senator Tammy Duckworth, who lost her legs in combat. Here's what she had to say about this comment. Play the clip.
America's daughters are just as capable of defending liberty and freedom as her sons.
Having served in combat yourself, what do you think of the idea that women make fighting more complicated? That was specifically what he focused on.
Well, it just shows his lack of understanding of where our military is. He was a pretty low-ranking guy in the military, and he never had a command position. He was a platoon leader, I think, once or twice, but he never even commanded a company. And so this is a man who is inordinately unqualified for the position. Remember that the Pentagon is 3 million servicemen and women and civilians. It is a over $900 billion budget. He's never, run anything anywhere near to that size. And frankly, women actually make our military more effective. And I've personally found that I brought many insights to my job when I was a company commander, when I was a logistics officer, that came from my own personal background that made things better. I took better care of my men, for
Yeah. Let me also be clear, when you have 3 million people in total, as Senator Duckworth was saying, what percentage of them, 30%, a third, 1 million are women? What are you going to do? Send them letters and say Thank you for your service to the country, but you're no longer needed because women aren't as competent and capable, and they're not able to fight the way that men are able to fight. Again, technology has changed war, thank God, a million times. But you're talking from a Senator Duckworth, Tammy Duckworth, who lost her legs in combat. Could you imagine the disrespect that this brings? I'm blown away that for a guy who's super intelligent, by the way, very educated, all Ivy League, would make such a ridiculous comment like that. It's so offensive on so many levels. But I want to also show you, as an example, you really can't make this up. I want to show you what Senator Eric Schmidt had to say about Hegseth. Play the clip.
Ultimately, this is a decision that President Trump made to bring in another disruptor. And I think if you look at this election, it was disruptor versus establishment. He ran on this. And there needs to be reform in the Pentagon, whether it's procurement, whether it's getting rid of divisive DEI that's dividing our military by race. There's no place in our military. I think he's talked about eliminating that. And then also making sure our focus is on our chief adversary, China.
Let me ask you, I guess, big picture, Senator. You're on the Armed Services Committee, and there's a known sexual assault problem in the military. Do you believe that Pete Hegseth is the right person to lead the military, given all of that at this very moment?
Well, he's not been charged with anything, of course, and I think that's important. And so you read from a police report. I've not seen the police report, but again, I'd like to, there's probably more documentation around this that would be interesting to see.
So I hear you say you have questions.
Well, of course I'm going to have questions, but that...
Yeah. Again, this is punting. Why not just come out with a statement and say, I understand that he's a Republican from Missouri and so on, and he wants to stay in Trump's good graces. I get it. I really do. I get it better than anybody. But how could you not turn it? It's not one, it's not two. I believe that there are three charges. And yes, he has not been held criminally accountable, payoffs and whatever it might be. But is he really the right guy to run our Department of Defense? Really? It's only he got the job simply because he was the Trumpiest Trumper on Fox News on the weekend. And he showed his fealty and loyalty. So put him someplace else. But how do you put him in charge of a $900 billion budget with 3 million plus people on the payroll when he's never had a payroll in his entire life? Now, I want to go on and show you what Senator Mark Wayne Mullen had to say with Dana Bash on CNN about Pete Hegseth. Play that clip.
And you argued that a police report that came out this week showed there were just two people flirting with each other. But I want to just make sure our viewers know what that report said, that the woman said that when she tried to leave Hegseth's hotel room, he blocked the door, ended up on top of her and performed a sexual act. She also said that she, quote, remembered saying no to a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
Dana, if we're going to get into that, let's talk about the whole police report. Now, I know you've read it, and I have definitely read it. First of all, the police report, if you look at it, it's very clear that what Pete was saying, was his attorney was saying, was accurate. There was no case here. He was falsely accused. If you go back and you read the report, there was 2 eyewitnesses said that she was being the aggressor. Pete wasn't even flirting with her. He was flirting with a different girl, and the other girl was trying to flirt with Pete, the Jane Doe here that is unmentioned.
Yeah. Oh boy. Nothing again to respond to that one. I get sticking up and trying to protect the president-elect's choice, but seriously? Seriously? Finally, I want to show you what Senator Dan Sullivan had to say. Play that clip.
And in my discussions with Pete Hegseth, one of the things that I really like, and by the way, it's this national security team, not just Pete Hegseth, but Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Mike Waltz as National Security Advisor. This is a strong trio that the president has put forward. But here's the key thing from my perspective, Trey. We need to get back to the core mission of the Department of Defense. That's lethality, that's winning wars, that's peace through strength. I just retired this year from the Marine Corps. I've been in for 30 years. So I saw firsthand some of the woke stuff that was happening with regard to the Biden administration. You had a Secretary of the Navy who's more focused on climate change than shipbuilding. One of President Biden's first executive orders, just 1 or 2 days after his inauguration, wasn't focused on lethality, winning wars, was focused on transgender surgery for active duty troops. So look, we need to get back to the mission of the Pentagon, which is to win our nation's wars and to create the most lethal force in the world to deter wars. And I think Pete Hegseth is very focused on that. And that is a refreshing change, a critical change that the American people want and we need in the Department of Defense.
Yeah. First of all, I wasn't aware that right now the United States is at war with anybody. I understand that we're assisting Ukraine in its war with Russia, and the United States is assisting with Israel, our partner, in terms of the Israel-Hamas war. I get that, but I wasn't aware. Suffice it to say, here's the part when at the beginning I explained to you, the end is going to be somewhat different than what you think. President-elect has every right to choose his cabinet. He has every right. I certainly am not going to be choosing it. You're certainly not going to be choosing it. The Biden administration certainly isn't. Kamala Harris or the DNC. Donald Trump gets to pick and choose his own cabinet. The hope is that there were enough senators, like there were with Matt Gaetz, within which to say, with all due respect, Mr. President, Pete Hegseth is not the guy that we have confidence in to run the Department of Defense. Or they capitulate, and then that is going to be who the secretary is who it's just going to be. Plain and simple. You see, our superpower, the citizens, is our ability to vote. And the plurality of Americans voted for Donald Trump. So of course he's going to pick and choose who he wants. I would like to see somebody who actually has the experience necessary in order to not screw up the DOD, because that is what we rely upon for our national security. Who knows? We all just need to take the temperature down. We need to sit there and just try to make our voices heard, like through communities like this, which is why I say now is not the time to unsubscribe, to subscribe and share, because we need to build up a community large enough to ensure that if the Senate doesn't do what they should do, what makes perfect sense, that's where we step in and we make sure that our voices get heard. And as always, thanks for listening. Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. We're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.